Okay,
Okay, so
good
tell me,
morning, everybody.
yeah, good
Now
morning,
we're going to start the
everybody.
show.
Good morning, everybody. We have a bunch of topics for you today, and let's start with how everybody's doing. Keith, how's everything on your end?
Things are good here. It's been another, week in Seattle, nice warm summer weather. Haven't done a lot. Beginning the week, I was kind of freaked out doing some coding for our show that we're going to do on crypto soon. When we get around to it, we're ready to do it. And been watching the news. COVID's still number one, and just been getting kind of upset with the some of the people who are just putting out rampantly incorrect information,
Yep.
just horribly bad information. So we'll be talking about that, I'm sure. But how are things with you out in New Jersey there?
Everything's as usual. We're affected by everything else that's going on, just as much as everybody else. Um, so yeah, let's get into our show. We have the title card is the clown nose affixed onto our famous Angeli,
Shaman.
yeah, the shaman, and we're going to be talking about how COVID has completely become politicized, and is it at this point superseding science on either side? We're going to be covering that. We're going to also talk about the Title 42, which currently has been blocked for 2 weeks for Biden's administration to present other their position on it. Is it the end of? Is it rest in peace or not? We'll talk about that. Finally, we have the World Meteorological Organization issued a warning, and it doesn't seem like anybody's terribly impressed by that, but that's yet another really urgent warning to all of us about the environment, the climate change. So we're going to be covering that and perhaps some more. Again, you could reach us at UHM No Joke if you have topics or comments or questions or anything. You can reach us that way, and we will address it. All right. So let's delve into our first issue here. You want to take a lead, Keith?
Yeah, well, the clown nose. Here we go. Yeah, I found this. This is a hard video to make. I actually had to. It was sent to me by somebody, and in an email, and then I had to download it onto my own computer. And anyway, I won't get into the details, but this one took a little while to get here. So I put it up on YouTube on my own channel, so now we can play it. And that's something you all didn't need to know. So let's just play it. Can I play it? Oh,
No, no, no. Is it a video form? It played earlier. I'm not sure why it's not.
it should play. Yeah.
Something in front of it. Sure, what's going? Oh, there we go.
Here we go.
It's cool, yeah, that's what we do. It's the way of the future for sure.
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah. Y'all want one?
Would you like one?
Come on, y'all get one.
COVID nasal filter.
COVID nasal filter.
Yeah.
Put one on
Yeah.
here. They're trying to get it approved so then you don't have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
Good. I don't wear anything.
Right now, yeah, you just focus on just breathing in and out of your nose. So the styrofoam will filter it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I know it. Thank you.
There you go. Other way, yeah.
They
There
can
you
laugh.
go.
They some
Y'all have a good day. Bye.
Yeah, there's some innovation for you. Your styrofoam clown nose. replaces the mask, and then, everybody can have fun and COVID can go away, right? Well, I'm actually suspending judgment on these two guys because they're having so much fun. It's just kind of a fun thing. But, seriously, if you're going to do that, have a mask on first. And that's why I put this little picture. That's the right way to wear a clown nose in the age of COVID. So, wear a mask. Just don't pretend that it actually protects you. And of course, I don't think anybody really is. This is just kind of fun, a little lighthearted, because there's been a lot of craziness going on.
Well, I don't see it as I don't see it as much as lighthearted fun. I think it's pretty irresponsible what those guys were doing. They thought they were being clever and dupe people into wearing those clown noses instead of masks to make a point. And by that, they kind of endanger those people who believe them. I don't think to me, that's not funny. But yeah, I think the joke's on them. I think the clear evidence is that of the people who are ending up in hospitals, twice as many are people, or at least are people who are unvaccinated. And not wearing masks is yet another exposure to those people, and frankly to anyone. Even if you had vaccines, wearing a mask protects you further. There's really no reason not to wear it in closed spaces. I personally, I don't wear a mask outside as much, and if the place is fairly ventilated and in a large space, I sometimes can remove my mask. But it's all a matter of risk calculation, and if you're thinking of viral loads, it definitely has an effect. Claims that masks are ineffective are ridiculous in terms of there's a lot of masks that don't cut it if it doesn't fit well around your face, if it's not proper materials. It's not going to do much. It's going to have a low efficiency. Even low efficiency may make the difference. But if you're wearing a well-fitted N95 mask, it certainly does filter the particles. That's been proven. And having a mask made out of multiple materials, one layer of at least one layer of cotton, high thread cotton, and one layer of chiffon or some other polymer hybrid would work well. One to filter out larger clumps, and the other one, the polymer, to work electrostatically to attract the smaller particles, the viral particles, to it and not allow it to be inhaled. So those things have been shown, that they can be proven. It's not true that like the claims that masks are ineffective are groundless, unless you I mean, if you want to compare apples to oranges, that's fine. But showing that using paper from the printer as toilet paper is ineffective is ridiculous, because there are papers that are
almost this thing can be totally overthought. I mean, I yesterday there was a Yahoo I was on one of our sister shows, or just as a comment, in the chat box. Yep. And this guy was claiming that, well, see, a mask will stop the flu virus, but it won't stop COVID. And that's nonsense. Come on, that's totally nonsense. He made it up, and he's a troll. And but there's a lot of this stuff out there, and the fact is, any mask is going to protect you somewhat. So if you want more protection, get a better one. But spending too much time on what's more effective than another kind of defeats the purpose of understanding that just put a damn mask on anything, because the whole idea is you're going to physically try to stop the virus from getting to you. And, I will wait for a CDC study regarding the clown nose. And I actually do agree with you. I would probably say, well, like if I walk down the street, I would say to these guys, what the fuck are you doing? You know, you know, that could lead to something, who knows? But yeah, what they're doing is not terribly responsible. Now, one thing about that though, you know, the people walking down the street, they were very easily taken in. You know, here they're wearing masks and they drop and they put on the nose and they have a great time. And I'll tell you, if I was walking down the street, no, I would not be dropping the mask and trying it on. But of course, you know, maybe people with, I won't say more sense, but just feeling a little differently to weren't put on the, you know, maybe a lot of people were walking down the street, they didn't tape.
Yep.
So, yeah, and this one, Alaska is at 100% capacity for ICU beds. And we won't look at that thing over on the right. I just put that up there because it's a local thing that Alaska's keeping very close track of who's got COVID and where. And, you know, it's showing that there are different counties, how many people have died and how many infections they have and all that. But, you know, and this is representative of the country. Idaho, I believe, is under the most dire straits and have been for a week. But hospitals across the country are overloaded, and it's gotten to the point, at least in Idaho, where you may not get care if you need it, because the doctors have to now make decisions about who gets care and who doesn't. And at least the procedure's been put in place so that can be done however they do it. So, you know, here we go. We have all kinds of star-spangled freedom people claiming the masks are ineffective. Some of our own, you know, channels like ours have been coming out with outrageous statements saying that vaccines don't protect you. Like, really? Not at all? Not like 50%? Not like at all? And you know, this is nonsense. And so I'm glad to be here with some kind of audience, able to express my frustration with people who think it's okay to put out garbage, you know, and because people are, look at those people walking down in the last slide, they're walking down the street and they put on the clown nose. Now, maybe they get to where they're going, they think about it and say, you know, hey, I shouldn't have done that. Well, you know, life's complicated. Things are thrown at us all the time. And we don't always have time, me included, to sort out all the garbage. I don't have time to do detailed research on everything, you know, I hear. So if somebody comes out and says, you know, the vaccine doesn't protect you, or what are you supposed to do with that? It could get you in trouble because it's too much.
Well, that is exactly the problem with the political aspect of it. It became so political that even discussing this issue is loaded, and then you have people who are anti-vaxxers who are making outrageous claims, and then the other side is going overboard, trying to gaslight some of these people, and sometime to an extreme, and that is also not right. And the thing is, here's the thing with these vaccines. On the personal level, absolutely it makes a difference. It reduces the amount of the effect of it in terms of how it the side effects of the disease.
11 times is the most recent study.
The symptoms, yes, absolutely affects that. It affects how many people are hospitalized and how many people die from the people who got vaccine. However, and we know that the people who received the vaccine are just as much likely to shed as much virus as the people who did not get vaccine. So they are walking around unbeknown to them, spreading the virus to unvaccinated people and to vaccinated people who are maybe also not going to know about it. But
right,
it's not stopping it.
Amos, I got to interrupt you here. You know, that's something I knew right away.
Yeah.
You know, when this thing first started, but if you are vaccinated and you do catch COVID, I do not believe that your viral load is going to be as high as if you never got vaccinated. I would say it might be high, it might be half of what it would otherwise be. But the fact is, if you get vaccinated and you get COVID, your symptoms are going to be reduced. There'll be a less chance of you going to the hospital. There'll be a less chance of you dying.
Yeah, Keith, your second statement is correct. The first one, there have been studies recently that showed that the viral load is at least as equivalent, if not more so, than people who did not get vaccinated. So, on this, unfortunately, the facts are in the opposite direction. But so if you're looking at it as a societal thing, whether it is a smart thing to apply this vaccine on a blanket level to everyone, probably it may not be, and that is a debate worth having. But it is possible that some claims that these viruses can, because it's called a leaky vaccination, because it has this reinfection ability. It doesn't stop the pandemic from getting spread. Because of this, the issue is that the virus could develop further variants that are more evasive and will be even more difficult to treat in the future. So that is something definitely worth discussing. Right now, it's being kind of squelched because there's so much anti-vaxxer misinformation out there that there is like a counter reaction to it that's kind of not very healthy for public debate. But there's definitely a point to be made that this may be detrimental to push this. With that said, the Delta variant was not an example of such a development in the virus. The variant developed as far as we know, in India during a time when the population was very, very scantily vaccinated. So it was not a result of over vaccination.
The more people that are infected, the higher the probability that there will be a new variant. It's a simple thing. Everybody's a petri dish who has it.
Well,
and
that
it's
is
as simple as that.
Yeah, if
the more petri dishes are out there, the more variants you can generate in a given period of time.
In my logic, if we have a hope to reach herd immunity, and that is an immunity where the society is immune to a level where the virus, an infected person with the virus, has very few targets to infect, then this dies out. But I don't think that many believe that we are on the path to herd immunity. Certainly not on the global level that has yet to see most of the population vaccinated even once. And in the United States, neither, because there's so much opposition to it. So I don't think that this is in the cards for us to reach herd immunity. And if we're not going to reach herd immunity, if we're not going to reach herd immunity, then we might as well consider a different approach. Boost up studies on treatment to make it more marginal in terms of its impact. And hold off on. I'm glad that they actually decided to hold off on the booster, because I think that's probably the correct thing to do, in spite of the popular message that boosters are good. That is a decision that's not in favor of the pharmaceuticals. And I think it was an important and difficult thing to arrive at. But nevertheless, that is the decision that they arrived. We're not going to be rolling out boosters on the level that we were thinking of earlier.
Well, Amos, I got to correct you on something, though, and disagree here. We actually have reached herd immunity. The nerds are vaccinated. The nerds,
Yes.
when they're in high school, they read themselves to sleep at night reading Scientific American, and or they did when it was a magazine and actually could actually buy it.
Yeah.
I think you still can. But that's my point. We have reached nerd immunity. People are into science. They're not messing around. They've all gotten vaccinated if they can. It's the herd we got to worry about. And so, yeah, just want to make the distinction. We have definitely reached nerd immunity. Yeah. This next slide. Yeah. The fact is, well, this is kind of sad because the slide here, this picture, this black and white picture, this comes out of the fact that 1 in 500 Americans have died of COVID so far. And there was a rumor. I didn't get the details on it. You looked into it a little more when I put up the slide, and so you can give a little information on it. I don't really much care about the truth or falseness about this. So this is another kind of going with the clown nose thing. Kind of I'm trying to find a little amusement in all this, and so supposedly there was this doctor who said gunshot victims were being turned away because people were arriving, at this hospital because they had OD'd on the horse dewormer, and it turns out not to be true. Well, what did you find out about this, Amos?
Well, that is not exactly true, and that is like I've watched Jimmy Dore do a segment on it and make a big issue out of it. However, he's really not investigated it properly. If he's supposedly doing a journalistic job, is not doing a very good one, because it turns out that the reason why the hospital that was contacted denied that there was anything to it, that there weren't any ivermectin people getting treatment, is because that is not the hospital that the doctor was associated with in the last couple of months, and not the one that he was talking about. And
they did a bait and switch.
So they said the hospital denied it, except they picked the wrong hospital to ask about it for a statement. So there was no such effect. There weren't any ivermectin affected patients there. But here's a statement from the other hospital that he's been working with, and here's it goes. Jason McEley, DO, is an employee of an agency that staffs many emergency departments throughout the United States. He has privileges at Integris Grove Hospital. He also works in several other emergency departments in rural Oklahoma. There is a lot of media attention surrounding remarks reportedly made by Dr. McEley. While we do not speak on his behalf, he has publicly said his comments were misconstrued and taken out of context. What we can confirm is that we have seen a handful of ivermectin patients in our emergency rooms, to include Integris Grove Hospital. And while our hospitals are not filled with people who have taken ivermectin, such patients are adding to the congestion already because of COVID-19 and other emergencies. And that is what the doctor was saying. He never said anything about it overwhelming hospitals. He was talking about a particular case where he had to send gunshot patient to another hospital way out of the region because they could not handle them after some ivermectin infected people came in. So this
the important thing is, the important thing is that this reflects back on the previous slides, the one without Alaska being at 100% ICU capacity, and Idaho being in a situation where they may have to deny critical care to people. And this is happening all across the country. The fact that this story actually made it to the Rolling Stone and got published, even though it had to have some kind of retraction, and we're not clear exactly on what the details are. The fact is that it even makes the news. That's the important thing. That's the relevant thing, that it makes the news, that our hospitals are full, and we have people on the tubes pretending that they are left, saying that, this is an infringement of your freedom to put a piece of cloth over your face, or to take something that protects you from a deadly disease, which could be a deadly disease.
Because
And like, again, this is tying it back to, this thing has been politicized when it should be no more than a public health issue.
That is correct. The polarization is to blame here. But the fact remains that unfortunately, on both sides, and people like Jimmy Dore, who are smearing this doctor, suggesting that he lied. It's just unconscionable that you would go after individuals in that manner before really investigating to the bottom of such thing, because people's lives is at stake. And just to score a few points on a podcast to destroy this person's life is to me just not kosher.
Well, there's a lot of that going on, though.
Unfortunately there is, but I just thought it was important to straighten the record on that one, because he hasn't done a good job with it, and there's others too, but
So you straighten out the record here. He's not a nutball. He's probably a very rational person who was taken out of context.
And also his claim is confirmed by if you approach the right people. If you approach the wrong people, the wrong places, they're not going to confirm it, because that wasn't their experience. So to present it as the evidence that he lied is just wrong.
Well, I have on my browser here, I have a conservative page open, and they're running with the false hospital story, and I'm sure they will not be retracting it when it's pointed out to them, if it is that, oh, you're talking about the wrong hospital. Not going to happen.
On the other hand, the venues that published this initially, like as a big news that this is happening, suggesting that it is happening everywhere to a great extent, was also unconfirmed and wrong. So it's just a mess, because everybody's trying to make a point. There is definitely value to him saying that, what he said, because potentially in places where the staff and the resources are stretched to the limit, it could make a difference to healthcare, whether people that are unnecessarily hospitalizing because the wrong use of ivermectin it's important to keep that in mind. It can happen in other areas as well, so it's worth discussing. Ivermectin, though, I said the word, but sorry about that. But it is there are some signs that it can help with the conditions. However, definitely not recommended to take animal husbandry levels of it.
And you won't get worms.
And getting it without the prescription of a doctor is also not good. Also, I'm sure the animals are complaining because they got worms now and don't have ivermectin to treat it. But
what you got here?
Well, we have another example of a doctor that, in this case, she clearly misrepresented information. Keeps misrepresenting information. She's still keeping her license. She has the Dr. Simone Gold. She's been claiming that masking was unethical, and that she was opposed to vaccinations. She's in turn trying to prescribe. She offered audiences to prescribe them with treatment medications which have not been proven, and said that they're taking $90 per application. They're at the moment backed up, but she's making money on this, and right now she's in trouble for another reason, because she was apparently involved in the January 6th insurgents, and now is defending herself in court in that regard. So we'll see what happens to her, but she's still a practicing doctor.
Crazy.
And what is this?
Well, I kind of noticed that food prices are going up, and I decided, well, is this something I'm imagining, or is it really going on? And so I did a little research to find out, that yes, we're suffering from food inflation. In fact, the whole world is, and the world is actually suffering from it much more than we are. It turns out that food prices in the last year have gone up, and get ready, 30% over the world, through across the world. And here they have gone up maybe anywhere from 5 to 10%, depending on what it is and where you are. And, I looked into it. Nobody is really saying that it's climate. Well, actually, I did find one source that was attributing some of it to the Canadian drought. But for the most part, this looks to be COVID related. The fact that, the economics are all screwed up because we built this wonderful society where everything had to get to where it was going at exactly the right time for everything to work, or things would start falling apart. And we are in a situation where things are starting to fall apart. We all know that shelves, there are supply issues all over the place, and prices are going up. So I just decided I would look into this and bring it here so that we could talk about it a little bit. I think personally that this is the sleeper right here. This is the slide that, in 10 years from now, shows like this will have all sorts of slides like this. It's right now, food in America has never really been a big issue because it's been low in cost relative to other places in the world, and you don't think about it that much. Like last week, we were talking a little bit about the housing and the rent thing. That's a big deal. You got to think rent takes a big chunk out of your budget, and of course, food's not small, but overall, most of us in a position where we've got some kind of income source. It's enough to feed us, and we don't really worry about it. But I think in the years to come, that's going to really change. And let's see what else I have here.
Nice picture of food.
Yeah, and I think this one I put, so I said, let's see what else I have to remind me. And that had to do with a woman who was claiming that she was writing for a Canadian, newspaper, I think in Alberta, and she was saying it had to do with the drought. Oh yeah, now this one is interesting, and I think you've got some other stuff later I noticed in the deck that might relate to this. And what I found, I was looking into, anyway, Al Gore, he actually does care about the climate. A lot of right-wing people would say that he didn't care and all that stuff. And, I don't even want to go there. But the fact is, he's involved in this thing called Climate Trace, and it's an organization, a company, whatever. And they are using satellite imagery and advanced mathematical techniques, working with satellite data, and I'm sure they use other things too. But the thing is, what they're trying to do is find out how much CO2 countries are emitting, and find out what sort of things are really going on as far as who's releasing it. And what they found out was that a lot of people, countries who are self-reporting their CO2 levels, are doing it pretty honestly, and they're somewhat accurate. countries and a lot of large countries who are actually producing oil and gas, they are dramatically underestimating, their actual emissions, which may be twice as high as they actually are. There's a lot of emissions from wells and refineries that aren't, the oil companies kind of control that info, so we kind of don't get it. And I suspect that's what's going on. And then the other thing is they found an additional 1 billion tons of carbon a year is being emitted by, just random sources, somebody cooking a campfire in some small country that doesn't report CO2 levels. That's where that sort of stuff is. And I just found it interesting that, Al Gore is, he's actually involved. Yeah. And this is what I'm saying. Food prices in the coming years are going to do that.
And there's been studies. There's a well-known report that addressed this future development issue, and they have 3 scenarios. And most likely, they believe that we are going to face severe food shortages by the mid-century. And that is something to keep in mind as we think of our futures and how we prepare ourselves, if at all there is a way to prepare for such a thing. But that's going to be an issue coming up. And just to pick up on, first of all, Schultze, we miss you. We haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for visiting. It's great to see you. B-Ball, we do miss John. Of course, John's decided to focus on his radio station and take himself out of the streaming portion of the organization. He's still very much part of the organization, and we hope we'll have him on the show for occasionally as a guest to discuss stuff. But yeah. We do miss him. All right. So now, about our next topic?
Well, I figure we should have a weekly, and since we do this every week, we should have a weekly flash flood report, since we're getting flash floods virtually every week now.
Oh boy.
And this week they weren't so dramatic. We got 2 videos. They're both worth watching. But again, this is relating to when you warm up the air, you put more water in the air. So the second video over there is going to talk about 6 inches of rain. If it had been like 30 degrees cooler, of course, that's a lot cooler. It would have only been 3 inches of rain, and which would probably have been no big deal at all. Yep. So let's find out what's happening first in Bath County, Kentucky, or what happened this week.
That flash flooding left behind a lot of damage in parts of Bath County. LEX 18's Kristen Edwards went to Owingsville and shows us how crews were at it all day to clean up. That's tonight's big story at 5.
This morning, flash flooding hit several areas in Bath County.
Mother Nature, you can't fight it. I mean, Mother Nature's going to do what she's going to do. You can't stop it.
When the water receded, some significant damage was revealed. Roads crews are out here right now repairing this road that got washed away by floodwaters. Those waters were so strong that it actually lifted pieces of the asphalt and transported them over here into this grassy area. And at this home in Owingsville, the gravel connecting the driveway to the road had totally washed away. That meant the homeowners couldn't drive off their property, so workers also helped with that.
That's our taxes hard at it right there.
No injuries have been reported, but officials are urging caution as the repairs made today are only temporary. In Bath County, Kristen Edwards, LEX 18 News.
Yeah, that was about 6 inches in a short period of time, I think, which is similar. And I think it's related to what happened in the next tape, or the next video, Richmond, Virginia here.
That's geoengineering, isn't it? Man-made rivers. Here we go.
Goddamn, dudes.
Yeah, this is I-95. And relating it back to that Bath County, the first video we watched, Bath County, 10 years ago, yeah, something that would happen in Bath County, we showed that video by itself. It might not have been remarkable, but that second one, which really is from the same storm, I'm pretty sure, that hit Richmond. Wow. That's like 2.5 feet of water there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's incredible.
And in the center is that little graph, that I inflict on everybody all the time about how much more water goes into the air as you warm it up.
Yeah.
Because all these things were talked about, years ago. I think one of the problems, though, is the people that had this information, they didn't describe it well enough. They didn't really talk about it the way it was going to happen. It just said, we're going to get more storms, more violent weather. Well, what's more violent weather supposed to mean? Well, now we're finding out.
Well, if you watched Al Gore's movie, The Inconvenient Truth, years ago, you would have seen exactly those images, and people were discounting it as attention grabbing or like over being crying skies falling or whatever. But yeah, he was right on it, and we're seeing this very prediction being filled out.
Yes, indeed.
And to our next topic, Title 42. Is it finally dead? Well, a judge in the court, I believe it was in the Columbia Circuit Court, federal court, has struck this thing down. And gave Biden 14 days to come up with explanation why it's needed. To remind everyone, this was put in place by Trump and allowed the U.S. to promptly export or extradite any families that were arriving at the border seeking asylum on the grounds of COVID, the COVID pandemic and its risk. And it was completely ignoring the fact that it was putting these people at more risk, not just the risk of being attacked by gangs or whatever in Mexico, but also in terms of the COVID itself. So they didn't care much about that. Families with kids were evicted as well, and that's received a lot of consternation by a lot of organizations, and the organizations that have taken the Biden administration to court were Texas Civil Rights Project, RACES, Center for Gender and Refugee Studies, Oxfam, ACLU of Texas, and ACLU of the District of Columbia, and I believe the ACLU in general on a federal level. They took them to court, and as a result, the judge has issued a stay. They have to pause this Title 42 extradition, and we will see what happens after that. It is kind of a cruel way of disposing it. It's using the cover of a pandemic, which has very little to do with that, as an excuse, and I hope it's going to be repealed. Meanwhile, though, it is important to mention that the crisis at the border has been building up. It's gone to nearly 200,000 people attempting to get asylum at the border in August, which is fourfold from the previous year. So the problem is not imaginary. It does exist. How we treat it, however, is increasingly important. And I think that if you want to deny these people the rights of asylum, there's a moral and ethical question about it, because we as a U.S. have a lot to do with the reasons for the conditions in South America now, and to just deny that and just want to ban them and just not have any responsibility whatsoever to past actions by past policies by the U.S. is just immoral, in my opinion. There are consequences to everything, and there are consequences to our foreign policy, and we have to deal with that. If that means having a greater immigration to the U.S. For a period of time, that may have to be the cause, but we can't just turn our faces once there is an outfall from our actions, and we've seen the same happen in Afghanistan. It's very easy to turn our backs, but I think if we are to look at ourselves in the mirror, we have to take responsibility for past actions. What's your opinion, Keith?
I agree with you. It's hard for me to agree with you though, but I do. And the reason it's hard is because, that we basically, I think we have too many people already, and we've got unemployment. We've got people who are not able to realize their dreams as it is. And we're not taking care of our own people the way we should. And so on one sense, because knowing all that, it's hard to justify, well, it's easy to justify care for other people. Don't get me wrong about that. But,
I get what you're saying. Right.
It is it puts you between a rock and a hard place in some ways. And I think you got to suck it in and really, I agree with you and say, what kind of person am I, morally, these people, these people are in need. That's the thing. And are we going to turn their back on them? Is that the kind of people we are? I hope not. I don't want to be in a country that's that way, and and if we are that way, I wish the hell there would be someplace to go. But that was 100 years ago.
Right. Well,
so,
and to say something
I agree.
else,
And we have, the things we have done in South America are unconscionable. But how many people even know about that? Certainly not the ones that Fox News is going to stir up in terms of like, illegal people, hey,
right.
At one time, everybody coming to America was illegal.
It is easy to demonize these people that are seeking asylum. They're not necessarily illegal or doing anything wrong. They're getting to our borders and trying to get asylum, which is an acceptable thing to do. But one thing that I do want to mention is that this whole idea, the zero-sum game promoted by Trump and conservative people is in my opinion false. It's funny because conservative people are very very willing to accept the notion of the idea of an unlimited supply of wealth when it comes to entrepreneurial initiative. There's this belief that you create wealth. You don't you can create wealth. There's no unlimited supply of it. And so when you apply it to this particular aspect, it's clear that we're looking at it as a zero-sum game where you have you're seeing these immigrants as something that is necessarily going to take away from U.S. population rather than create new opportunities. And the fact is that it has been shown that in a lot of cases it has been creating new opportunities. There's a lot of initiative coming with immigrant populations because of the type of people that take their lives into their hands and are willing to disrupt everything and move. They're more entrepreneurially, they're leaning in that direction, and so they've been creating a lot of new opportunities as well, and that is being kind of not looked at and discounted in the just in order to present them as a foe. But that's a situation.
Well, interesting you say zero-sum game because, yeah, the truth is life is neither one way or the other. It's a bit of both. But I notice people like to play games with the zero-sum game depending on if it suits their argument or not. And like getting to the immigration issue, it's there if you don't want the people in, you pretend everything's a zero-sum game. So if you give to somebody else, you're taking away from somebody, and no value, you don't ever increase. Where the opposing point of view is that you let the people in, and all sorts of innovation happens, and they wind up, contributing more to society than they ever took away from it. And like I say, the truth is definitely somewhere in the middle. But getting back to it, what kind of people are we? And yes, Trump, put in what was a March 20th, 2020, this Title 42 thing, and and it's an insult to anybody with a heart.
Yeah. And another piece of news that the Guardian covered was that immigrants are required to pay a crippling high bails, tens of thousands of dollars, in order to pay their bail to be released from detention across the U.S., which is really a discriminatory thing if you think about it, and it's just not right. You have a population that has exhausted their resources by trying to get to the U.S., and then you're gonna pretty much punk them by putting in a level of bail that they cannot afford. So it's a shame, in my opinion. It's shameful, but this is something that's going on at the current time.
Well, if they didn't have high bail, what would they do? Skip the country?
Exactly. Good point. Yeah. All right. To our next topic, and that is that's to answer your Barbara, your concern. Your garden died, but more than that happens in the world, and the World Meteorological Organization, as part of the UN, has issued a very dire warning. It does not come to us as a surprise. We've been talking about it for ages. However, they've clearly notified that we're running the clock on this. The General Secretary of the UN presented it, and he said, here's the quote. You want to read this, Keith?
We have reached a tipping point on the need for climate action. The disruption to our climate and our planet is already worse than we thought, and is moving faster than predicted. Yeah, like we didn't know. Everybody, yeah. I mean, if you watch our show, that's what I rant about every week.
But this is coming from UN authorized source, so that is a different thing. Different.
Yes, definitely different from me ranting, for sure.
There's more on that.
Yeah, we now have 5 times the number of recorded weather disasters than we had in 1970, and they are 7 times more costly. Even the most developed countries have become vulnerable. And, that was my point with that dual video there, with the rainstorms. The first one was a bad storm that would have been news 10 years ago. And now that's going to be typical. And the one on the right, where we've got a river flowing down a freeway, that's going to be the news.
And it's interesting to note that the cost of it is not proportional. I mean, it's not the same as the number of the amount of acceleration, because you have 7 times the cost, while there's 5 times as much weather disasters. So we're seeing I don't know if it's a logarithmic relationship, but it's definitely. I
think that would be correct. That would be correct, because you said 5 now, and it's only going to go up. But one thing, a related thing, is that they're thinking of making a new classification for hurricanes, because Category 5 does not go up enough, and one thing that happens does not go high enough. And one thing that happens in the hurricanes is the damage is definitely exponential. So when you get 150-mile-an-hour wind and you move it from 150 to 160, there's significantly more power in that extra 10 miles an hour, and that's going to do a lot more damage. So yeah, five times now, 7 times next year, 20 times the cost a decade from now. It's only going to get worse, and it's going to get worse. The question is, how much worse, and we have a say in that.
And that is exactly part of the issue with when we're weighing response at this time. People say, well, this would cost too much to do this or that to address the threats. However, we look at how much this is going to cost us just by the escalation of this situation. It's going to dwarf anything that we consider spending in preventing a worsening of it. So here's another quote that they had here.
We really are out of time. We must act now to prevent further irreversible damage. COP26 this November must mark that turning point. By then, we need all countries to commit to achieve net zero emissions by the middle of this century and to present clear, credible, long-term strategies to, I can't read the rest. My head's in the way. Something about there. Okay, we got
by the middle of the century, and to present clear, credible, long-term strategies to get there. It's we'll see what happens with COP26. It's right around the corner, 2 months. We'll know where we're headed. I don't have very good feelings about it. I don't think they're going to take as serious consideration about it as is urged by the World Meteorological Organization. And
well, their discussions are almost as political as COVID discussions, So yeah. And
a study done by the BBC with the accordance, I believe, with cooperation with Oxford University, climate change, world now sees twice as many days over 50 Celsius, and that is alarming. In the last 40 years, it's really doubled. So especially in the last 20 years, it's gone way over, it's not that it is equally affecting the entire world. In fact, when you look at it, it is affecting the Siberian area, the Middle East, and Siberian area, Middle East, and Alaska much more than it is affecting the rest of the world. It's gone up by 2 degrees in those areas.
I've got a trivial fact about this, and it is that the Brazilian forest fires have actually put less CO2 in the air than the current American and Siberian forest fires put together.
Interesting. Wow, that's interesting to know.
Yeah. Horrible.
The areas that saw 1 degree increase were Eastern Europe, South Africa, and Brazil, I believe. So it's not a good picture. And when you think about the effects of it on the tundra and the icy areas, that even if you melt it one time, you're releasing methane, humongous amounts of methane. Even if this is not like a long trend, even if you have an off year that happens, you're causing irreparable damage in the long run. So that's something as well to keep in mind. And finally, the report determined that even if emissions are reduced to limit warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius, the global average sea level would likely rise by 0.3 to 0.6 meters by 2100, and could rise 0.3 to 3.1 meters by 2300. So that's That's among the lower estimates that I've seen, but nevertheless, it's quite disturbing.
It is. I may have waterfront if I live long enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see what you guys have to say. Yeah. Yeah, we're seeing Siberian wildfires are kind of pretty disturbing. Any huge fires, they put huge amounts of CO2 into the atmosphere, and the problem is they're talking about reducing methane more so even than CO2 at this point because of its effect in the immediate future. And of course, it's
well, there's a political angle there I spotted a few weeks ago, and that is it turns out there's huge methane releases from certain wells, and that certain like not all wells emit methane in huge quantities.
Yeah.
And the ones that are emit, so they can be identified using like modern tech and like infrared cameras and all sorts, so you throw the high tech at it and you can find these things, and then you can deal with those wells. And so the political angle is the oil companies have been really pushing this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we can reduce, we can control our methane emissions, which maybe they can, which is a small part of the methane problem, because the big problem is actually in the Arctic with all the methane coming out where it's been sequestered by being basically frozen in the ground in the sea forever, and now it's unthawing. So yeah, that's so that's some low-hanging fruit that the certain oil companies were able to exploit and put in the news.
Perhaps, but you also have to keep in mind another thing, that's the methane and other gases they're causing severe damage. They're a good number of times more effective in terms of greenhouse gases than CO2. However, because they're so sparse in the atmosphere, it is tremendously more challenging to ever try to sequester them. Nevertheless, I mean, even when you consider tree planted, trees are not using methane as much or at all. I don't know, but they're not the solution for this thing. Even if you came up with a solution like that, those mechanical trees, just getting to one molecule of it is going to require sucking in much more air, and therefore is reducing the efficiency of that process. So it's impractical to be
Which
able
is a long way of saying it won't work.
It won't work. It won't work, and that's and those things are going to stay in the environment long enough, maybe less long than CO2, but long enough for us to possibly cross any runoff situation where we're like spiraling out of control. So
yeah, well, the methane is a big issue. I even have a video on the methane problem on my channel. The methane bomb. If you want to go find my channel, you can watch it. But the thing is, it would not be in the. My point is, we would not have methane in the news right now, except that oil companies saw some low-hanging fruit, and they want to put it in the news briefly because they can deal with a little bit of the problem. Then it won't be in the news anymore. I mean, that's their plan. All right.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing
maybe
that there is a plan, but the point is, methane is a big problem, and yeah, I don't think it would be on the news otherwise.
Yeah, and we did a show. I did a show about the current AC gases that are being used. Some of the AC technology is using freon gases that are thousands of times worse than CO2, and just the importance of banning those and figuring out how to take them out of circulation is a huge endeavor on its own, huge challenge. You can watch that segment with an author that wrote about it in the channel. So that that's pretty much. Anything else you wanted to say about this, Keith?
No, that's it.
Cool.
We've covered it. Another week of turning up the volume on the climate, turning up the volume on the COVID stupidity, and basically that's it for the week. It's we've been going down a straightaway in our road to doom here.
Although we haven't talked.
So it's same stuff. With some developments, but basically we're holding steady. The same stuff.
Yeah.
Same shit.
Thank you very much, Al Walski, for your donation. A few dollars to ensure that independent media has a voice. I wanted to mention we have not kept postponing this. We're building this program to present you with about cryptocurrency. It's kind of like a difficult topic to simplify to the point where it clarifies the obstacles, the issues, the challenges, the social impact and environmental impact of this technology, and we wanted to tackle it. So we're going to be doing that in the upcoming week. So
we had a scheduling issue, but it actually works to our advantage, because for me, it gave me a little more time to dig into this and prepare myself better for it.
Yep, cool. Mention Haiti again. If you want to donate, there's a site called NJ for Haiti, NJ for the number 4, and you could donate money to the victims of the combined earthquake and hurricane there. If you haven't watched the discussion about COVID, we have that also available for you. And finally, we have Imani Oakley running for District 10 for Congress in New Jersey. She needs your help. There's FDA, not FDA. What is it called? There's a deadline coming for the donation reports. And so if you feel you'd like to support a progressive, can go to her site on this slide. Same thing with Juan for Congress, who's running in 26th District in Florida. Don't forget to share our content if you feel that we're contributing some information in the space. So we appreciate if you disseminate it organically, and we appreciate everybody here that's joining us. If you want to contact us again, you can do so through the Twitter hashtag. Anything else, Keith, that you wanted to cover?
No, I'll thank Al too. Thank you, Al.
Okay. Yeah, and thanks, Barbara. Thanks for the okay.
So you've got an outro here.
We have an outro. This is actually a hometown band. I went to see them yesterday as well. Fantastic musicians. There's 3 people: a drum guy who's also a soloist, and a bassist and a guitarist, and they cover the most challenging pieces of music. They do covers, which is to me incredible. They cover things that like Doors, where you have a keyboard component. Just with these instruments, they cover Pink Floyd and some other Police, and some difficult songs by Police and so forth. So these tremendously talented guys are local. They're my neighbors, and I just wanted to share. So here's an original that they recorded called Shimmer, and we'll bid everybody bye-bye till next week, and hope to see you soon.
And hope you all have a good week.
Bye-bye.